Madam Clerk, time is 7:02. I'm going to call this council public planning meeting to order. Town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territories of the Chippewas of Regina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties in 1923. Shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together to a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councilor Weiss, Councilor Gilliland, any questions? Seeing none, call the vote. Councilor Weiss? Councilor Weiss, yes. Councilor Gilliland? Councilor Gilliland's yes. Carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Welcome to Aurora's public planning meeting. The purpose of this public meeting is to inform the public and obtain public input regarding the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application. For the planning application that will be considered by council tonight, the following process will occur. 1, town planning staff will outline the purpose of the planning application being considered. 2, then the applicant will be given an opportunity to make a presentation and address issues raised in the staff report or public concerns already filed. 3, following these presentations, members of the public will be invited to offer their comments or concerns respecting the item virtually or in person and may speak twice for up to 5 minutes each time. And 4, following comments from members of the public, I will then ask members of council for their comments. It is very important that the town receive the correct names and addresses of individuals having an interest in the planning application. Therefore, if you plan to speak to council at this meeting, or if you wish to be notified of any further council or committee meetings concerning the application being considered, you must complete a planning interested party and speaker request form available at the town's website at aurora.ca/planning notices, or contact Planning and Development Services by email at planning@aurora.ca, or you can complete a green interested party form and leave it right up there with our committee coordinator sitting at the front. Under the Planning Act, only the applicant has the right to appeal any decision of council on a planning application to the Ontario Land Tribunal. This public meeting is being audio and video recorded. Names, addresses, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our town clerk prepare accurate minutes and to create a record that is available to the general public, including the town's website. Questions about this collection should be directed to the town clerk, Town of Aurora. I will now ask the town clerk to confirm the notification to the public occurred as required by the Planning Act. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. Respecting 5.1, application for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, Eric and Theresa, Jacquelene, Liversidge, and Livewell on Wellington General Partners Limited, 1414, 1426, and 1452 Wellington Street East, lots 1 to 4, registered plan 525, file numbers OPA 2025-10, ZBA 2025-09, ZBA 2022-06. A notice of public planning meeting was published in the local newspapers and posted on the town's website. In addition, the notice was given by mail to all address property owners within a 120-meter radius of the subject lands. Notice of public planning meeting signs were also posted directly on the property. Public meeting notification has been provided in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I will now ask the Director of Planning and Development Services to begin with the presentations. Mr. Rumino.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll start with our staff presentation. Our planner, Felix Chow, will provide an overview of the applications, and then we can turn it over to the applicant and their planning consultant, Jim Gonzalez. Felix.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, and members of the public. My name is Felix Chow, and I'm the planner with the town. Before us is a statutory public planning meeting for the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications for the property municipally known as 1414, 1426, and 1452 Wellington Street East. This slide provides a site context of the subject property and the surrounding area from an overhead view. The subject property is located at the northwest corner of Leslie Street and Wellington Street East. The site has a total area of approximately 1.1 hectares or 2.7 acres with approximately 137 meters of frontage along Wellington Street East. The property at 1414 and 1426 Wellington Street East is currently occupied by a single detached dwelling and an accessory structure in the rear yard. Vehicular access to the detached dwelling is provided via private driveway connecting to Wellington Street East. The property at 1452 Wellington Street East has been serviced in accordance with the previously approved plans. However, construction is currently on hold as further construction is pending approval of the subject applications. The surrounding land uses are as follows. To the north is a parking lot for the Stronach Aurora Recreation Complex and lands that were recently redesignated as community commercial with a site-specific policy. Further north is a church and a new medium-density residential development consisting of townhouses and single detached dwellings. To the south is a vacant property currently the subject of an active zoning bylaw amendment and plan of subdivision applications to facilitate townhouses and eight single detached dwellings. To the east is an Esso gas station, and to the west is the Stronach Aurora Recreation Complex. Further west is a fire station, followed by medium-density residential development consisting of townhouses. On 1452 Wellington Street East, or the right side of the development, in 2023, Council approved official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications to facilitate 30 standard townhouses, 6 visitor parking spots, and the road configuration shown on the slide. In 2024, a site plan application was approved. However, a site plan agreement has not been executed. As part of these applications, the applicant proposes to remove 8 of the approved standard townhouses, being the middle row, and replacing them with 16 back-to-back townhouses. Within the Town of Aurora official plan, the lands at 1414 and 1426 Wellington Street East are currently designated as community commercial. It is the intent of the designation to promote neighborhood-scale commercial opportunities and service the local community. The lands at 1452 Wellington Street East are designated medium high-density residential. The intent of this designation is to provide residential neighborhoods made up of primarily multi-unit grade-related housing and apartment buildings. Within Schedule A of the official plan, the subject lands fall within a local corridor. Intensification is directed to the local corridors at densities and scales that are compatible with the surrounding areas. Within the town's zoning bylaw 6017 as amended, the lands at 1414 and 1426 Wellington Street East are currently zoned rural, which does not permit the requested development. The lands at 1452 Wellington Street East are currently zoned townhouse dwelling residential R8 exception zone 551. This exception zone does not permit back-to-back townhouses. The proposed land use amendments are intended to facilitate a residential development consisting of 74 townhouse dwelling units. That's 42 standard units and 32 back-to-back units. Vehicular access is proposed with a right-in, right-out access from Wellington Street East and a proposed access through the Stronach Aurora Recreation Complex private driveway. The development will be accessed through a private condominium road. 2 parking spaces are proposed per unit, along with 15 visitor parking spaces. This slide shows a conceptual rendering submitted by the applicant for this application. The building design is currently being reviewed by staff and will be finalized through a future site plan application. With respect to official plan amendment application, the applicant proposes to redesignate 1414 and 1426 Wellington Street East from community commercial to medium high density residential. There is no OPA application for the 1452 Wellington Street East application. With respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, the applicant proposes the following. To amend 1414 and 1426 Wellington Street East from rural to townhouse dwelling residential R8, exception zone XX, and townhouse dwelling residential R8, exception zone YY. With respect to 1452 Wellington Street East, the applicant proposes to rezone a portion of the lands to townhouse dwelling residential R8, exception zone YY. The XX exception zone will establish zoning standards for the standard townhouses, and the YY exception zone will establish zoning standards for the back-to-back townhouses. Subject to the decision of this land use application, a future site plan application will be required where the following technical items will be reviewed: the proposed townhouse design, the road reconfiguration, the proposed visitor parking spot locations, and the proposed accesses. A community information meeting was hosted by the applicant on February 26, 2026, where no public comments were received. Staff have identified the following matters to be addressed through our review and comments: conformity to the provincial policies and other planning policies, review of the proposed site-specific zoning standards, review of the proposed vehicular access from the recreation complex, review of the proposed connection to the townhouse development to the east, as well as the availability of municipal servicing capacity. All comments, including any additional comments received from tonight's public planning meeting, will also be required to be addressed by the applicant with further detailed review of the proposal to occur. When appropriate, a staff report with recommendations will be brought forward for council's ultimate consideration. As previously mentioned, a future site plan application is required for technical review. Additionally, a plan of subdivision and part lot control applications will be required for 1414 and 1426 Wellington Street East to establish the townhouse lots. All interested parties will be notified of updates relating to the subject applications. Okay. Staff will remain available for questions tonight and moving forward in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. Mr. Romano?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We can turn it over to the applicant's planning consultant, Jim Katsopoulos.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff, and the public. My name is Jim Katsopoulos. I'm here with the owners behind me. And Mr. Chair, I believe that they will want to speak for a couple minutes after me, if with your indulgence, just regarding a very specific matter. And but I'm not going to be too long because of the eloquent presentation made by staff. I do just want to just concentrate on a couple aspects of this. As the first one is, as staff has noted, on the we call this Livewell East and Livewell West. The easterly portion, as Felix has pointed out, is before council tonight in order to deal with the middle portion of the already approved block. And that is to transform the previously approved conventional towns into some back-to-back forms. And Mr. Mayor, that is the situation from a consumer demand and market conditions perspective. And that's why ownership has decided to seek that direction in terms of that change to Livewell East. And Livewell West, as Felix has said, And that is going to basically mirror what Livewell East looks like today in terms of approvals. And at the end of the day, Mr. Chair, what you're going to end up with is a unified, comprehensive form of development on the subject lands, which is the combination of Livewell East and Livewell West. And this will ensure that there will be conformity, compatibility from a built form, from a density, from an urban design, and from an access perspective. And as Felix said, one of the key components that is going to be further discussed as part of this approval process is the access points to the west and, of course, along Wellington. And in terms of the, again, in terms of the unification, you will see a cohesive form of development between the two portions of this development, Livewell East and Livewell West. And as Felix said, this will be further reviewed and finalized during the very diligent site plan approval process that is forthcoming. So, Mr. Chair, those are my comments at this time. And again, I would like for Arian to just to make a couple comments specifically on the marketing and the timing of these units. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor and member of council, I just wanted to point out in terms of technicality, obviously the town and our consultants are working. In terms of the price points, I just wanted to mention for the back-to-backs, we're planning to start with $699,000 for those ones. And that was one of the big reasons to make that change to the what was approved before as well. Again, these are 3-story, 1,100 to 1,200 square foot. And we think with the current market situation, they can be, it can be sold well and people can use it actually. Just wanted to mention that. And in terms of the timeline, the site servicing for the eastern part is already done. And we are looking to do the same on the western side in this upcoming summer as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Stops, you're good. Jim, you're good.
For my
Okay,
comments
I
as
just
well.
want to make sure that was it. Okay,
Thank you so much.
I will now open it to members of the public. Are there any members of the public? First on my list, Rocco Marcello. Rocco, welcome. You have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council and town staff. Thank you for inviting the public to speak about this application tonight. I have 4 items to consider regarding this application. Number 1, I'd like to see the green space increased. Currently, it's only 200 square feet of amenity space in the middle, and it's serving 74 families. So I'd like to see this area increased a bit. Reducing the amount of parking spots as per the application may cause some issues with overflow vehicles using the SARC parking lot. There should be a plan in place to prevent this. If they are reducing the parking spots, everybody can't just overflow into the SARC area whenever they feel like it. This application also proposes the SARC entrance as one of the entrances. I think it was mentioned a couple times, and I appreciate the coordination that's going to happen with this south development project as well to make sure that these are aligned. We're talking about a lot of townhouses now, and I probably see that there's going to be an entrance alignment issue, and traffic lights will probably need to be installed there. Number 4, I'd like to see a 2-year sunset clause added to the site plan approval. And those are the only comments I have.
Thank you. Any other members of public? Welcome. I can just get you to state your name and you have 5 minutes. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Lita Dayfoot. My delegation here tonight is basically one of just my thoughts and perspective of delving into what council was going to present here tonight. So it is fairly new to me, but in so doing, subsequently doing that, what I'm going to present tonight is basically my viewpoints. I have a number of questions and there are a number of red flags that came up when I looked into this. Previously, the approved plan, and I don't have anything really prepared for this, but I'm kind of talking off the cuff. Previously, the approved plans for 1452, which was a lovely concept, and self-contained subdivision. And I said, well, okay, that's lovely. And I thought when I looked at the new one, I said, oh, why not just do a mirror image of it on the other side? But are you aware that 50% of this, what you had agreed on, has now increased by a density of 50%. 50%, still in that same area. You've increased it by 50%, and at the same time decreased the green space, decreased the parking spaces. So I'm not even talking about the west side, I'm just talking about the east side at the moment. And the transition is very, I find is very drastic. Also, the proposed building that I cited previously opposed, lovely townhouses. And then the one that conceptual elevation and the conceptual building that I see now, to me, just as an observer aesthetically, I feel like I'm moving into an industrial park and living in an industrial park. No green spaces. In fact, this almost looks like the industrial park that you see at Leslie and St. John's. So that's just my viewpoint. All the spaces in front of the buildings have decreases. So sitting out in front of, on your staircase, looking out at neighbors, you don't even have that green space, all the green space. Now, with respect to transition into the subdivisions to the west and the subdivisions to the south, if you take this parcel of land that you have now and the new subdivision, and you take this whole section and you put it into the areas, the development to the west, I think it's Ellesmere subdivision, whatever, and to the south, this development plan is higher density than this same dimension in those subdivisions. It's not even close to some of those subdivisions, and those subdivisions are self-contained. They do not need to use an access to public, okay. I'm just finishing off right now, but my suggestion would be to keep the roadway going straight through, take out those parking spaces, and to take, instead of having a circular, make it a self-contained subdivision without having to go east out. So you have that direct, pick out those parking spaces there and use a keyhole court on either end, here, 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 and here. And that would, those keyhole courts could be your parking spaces, and you can add green spaces to it. So all I'm saying is, at this point with the red flags that are putting up, you might want to consider directing the staff to address these issues with the developer and give leeway for a revised report back for a future planning committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Welcome, sir. Just get your name and floor is yours. 5 minutes. Good to see you, by the way.
My apologies, Mr. Mayor. I intended to keep my mouth shut tonight and not say anything and came here to listen, but I'll be very brief. My name is Eric Liversidge, and along with my wife, Jackie Liversidge, we are the owners of 1426 Wellington Street East. Now, in your reference here, you've been talking about 1414 and 1426. As of November of this past year, 2025, MPAC have consolidated the two properties under one assessment roll number, and it's now known as 1426 Wellington Street East. The other thing I'd just like to clarify, and maybe Arian, if I can ask you, when did you say you planned on starting the servicing on the on my
Eric.
property?
Eric,
I'm
I
sorry.
gotta get you to go through the chair. Just, you gotta stick.
Okay, my apologies.
Yeah. Thank you.
Tom, if you could then ask Arian if he could clarify that for me as to when they plan on starting the services on 1426.
We might get to that as we go on. There's no question kind of period type of thing until we get to council, but I'm sure one of my colleagues will probably ask that question for you.
Super.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Are there any other members of the public? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion of this meeting. Council, the recommendations that report number PDS 26-027 be received, and 2, that the comments presented at the statutory public planning meeting be addressed by Planning and Development Services in a report to a future committee of the whole meeting. Did someone want to move that recommendation? Councillor Gilliland, is there a seconder? Councillor Kim, thank you. Any comments or questions to the presentation or to the report? Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. I appreciate the comments that are around the table and sort of the public as well as the presentation. If anybody knows, with this particular parcel, I've often thought that this is where we actually need more density. And I do appreciate that there has been some increase in density from the original project, but if anybody recalls from when this was very first presented, I felt this was an area where we would actually benefit from more density, especially during a time we've had our own housing crisis here, and being able to have a little bit more homes here, I think would be a little bit more affordable for getting the younger generation in. What I do actually like about what the developer has done is by making it more dense. I understand that the market's market driven, and it's market driven because townhouse, stacked townhouse, that is the market driven. I understand the performer is going to play a role, and the developers come in and has reduced that entry level price to $699, which is amazing. So I really do commend the developer coming in with those numbers to help give opportunities for families to be able to come and live in Aurora for that. So I do thank you for that, but I prefer more density going up. My biggest criticism, though, and I think I've shared this in the past and through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ariane, is when it comes to that green space in the middle, I really do have a bone of contention with that. I've often said, I feel like this is a little bit of a project that's in the middle of nowhere without having any type of place for the kids to play, because eventually, I mean, where we're actually marketing to is potentially couples with starting out with young families. Maybe there's people who are retired, I'm not sure, but at the end of the day, I do think that that's primarily the market. And we can't just be relying on the SARC or a park that's, X amount of feet away through your parking lot. And so I really want to see some commitment from you to be able to put some sort of playground in that middle green space. And could you maybe come to the podium and comment on that? I know this is something that's very important.
Go ahead.
To Mr. Mayor and a member of council. So in terms of the use, for now we left it alone as part of the site plan application. We'll definitely work with staff and the opinion of the council members to put the function there. So we are open to do that, and we can definitely put a function as the playground there, as the in the center portion, basically for the resident. And in terms of the timeline, if I can answer, so I have to correct myself. So this summer, basically the eastern side basically the servicing will be done and the construction will start there. And on the western side, with the collaboration with Mr. Eric, we will do it probably in 2027. It will happen. So I just have to make that clear as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Just stay there. Thank you. Through you to Mr. Mayor, Mr. Arian, you can stay there. You did say that you were open to doing that and working with your landscapers and such, but I'm really looking for a commitment as a partner to show that you are actually going to put some form of a playground or amenity space there, because this is really important. And this is why you guys have been very good partners with our town. And I really want to see that when we do have families that want to buy here, that there are things for them to do. And given that it is a very, very busy corner, very busy. It is the gateway of our community. There is some condos going up at the street. The regional corridor has expanded that area for height, specifically for that area, just for the public to know that it is designated. You could go up 5, 6, 7 stories there anyway, but you've chosen not to. But we still need amenities. So I just want to understand if you guys are committed to providing that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the member of council, yeah, for sure. We are committing to do that, and we will provide that in the committee of whole. We can put a function there as well in the center, so everyone can have a better understanding what that can happen.
Appreciate that.
Councillor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councillor Reese.
Thanks. And I agree with about the green space. We're always concerned about the quality of life for younger residents. And so I hope you're going to make sure that comes to fruition for us. I thank Eric for and the others for answering the question about the servicing and when it's going to get started, because and also for Mr. Marcillo, who wanted to know that as well. So I hope that was done. I don't know if we need a sunset clause on there, but it certainly is a recommendation that we can proceed with. But it really, your commitment here to get the servicing completed on the east side and then going for the west side is a great thing. The other issue I had, and as was mentioned by the delegate, is the parking. And I guess this is going to come from me through to the mayor to perhaps Mr. Ramuno about the parking. And also, while we're at it, why don't we talk about that with respect to the access to Wellington off of the SARC? Can you tell me a little bit about what the plans are there and what the permissions are there?
Mr. Ramuno.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the proposed plan before council this evening, in total, based on the layout now, there's 163 parking spaces for the 74 units. 15, that includes 15 visitor parking spaces. Some of the units, the back-to-backs, I believe, and Felix, you can correct me, the back-to-backs have, one parking space in the garage. Most of the other standard units have got a minimum of two parking spaces. So based on our current review, they've got sufficient parking. Again, we'll continue to take a look at this if there are any additional revisions made as we move forward. With respect to the access, when phase 1 or the eastern portion was approved by council back in, I guess it was back in 2023, the region has jurisdiction over that stretch of Wellington, and the access was approved. That's on Wellington. It's right in, right out. That's fixed. It's not supposed to be changed. But the applicant is now, as part of this phase 2, the western portion, they are proposing or showing an access connection through to the SARC parking lot area. So that's something that we need to take a look at to ensure that that is going to work and there won't be any conflicts with our SARC parking lot and access. With respect to the SARC parking lot, and I think council received a written correspondence from the planning consultant for the property owner who owns the property 1289 Wellington on the south side of Wellington. We've had council's dealt with that application in the past. There's been a revision. They're proposing an access point on Wellington, which will align opposite the SARC access point. And their only comment to council this evening was, of course, they don't have any objection. They just want to ensure that we're going to ensure that there will be a coordination between their access and if there are any changes to the SARC driveway, because we know eventually that may have to be signalized down the road. And my engineering staff, as council, you're probably aware, they're working on a repaving project for the SARC parking lot this summer. So we'll take that under consideration as well. But, council may want to weigh in on the proposed access through the SARC, but staff are still looking at that. We're speaking to our fire services and our traffic analysts to determine whether that's a feasible connection or not. But even if it's not, based on our current review, the development as proposed can work with the existing access onto Wellington.
Council.
Thanks. So the assumption on that is, that's a regional, that's an us issue as opposed to the applicant. And I guess my next question is there been any traffic studies on this looking at both the phase 1 and phase 2 and the effect of the traffic in and out of that? Because it seems like, it was a good idea when we had the phase 1 only, but now we're adding phase 2 and hoping for the access on the SARC. So are any traffic studies being done, have been done? Can you have, Mayor, through you?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, they've submitted all the background studies, traffic study as well. And I believe our staff have asked for additional information, additional analysis on the with respect to traffic, because there is a slight, as part of this application, they are requesting an increase in the unit count on the eastern phase 1, the internal 8 standard townhouses that are going to 16 back-to-back. So that information, we have the original traffic study. We've asked for some additional information as well, and we'll review that and provide our recommendations at a future committee of the whole meeting.
Councilor.
And my last question, just let my colleagues have a couple of cracks at it too. I really liked what one of the delegates mentioned about Wellington Street and the proximity of the buildings to Wellington. And is there any kind of a sound barrier buffer, landscaping that we're asking to be put there to protect those people who live on the Wellington side from the traffic and noise that comes from Wellington? Through you, Mayor, to probably Mr. Ramuno again.
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, with respect to any noise mitigation measures, I don't believe, and Felix, you can jump in, the region hasn't requested, nor have our engineers requested any noise walls for this development, nor in phase 1, nor in phase 2. But again, if that comes up, we'll have to incorporate that. But there hasn't been any requests for a noise wall based on the conditions of Wellington Street. And the phase 1 didn't include a noise feature. And I'm just thinking of the townhome project further to the west doesn't have one either. So noise mitigation measures aren't warranted for this development. But again, it's something that we'll certainly confirm and report back.
Councilor.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Gallo.
Thank you. Generally speaking, I am in favor of this. I think it makes sense on this parcel of land to have one development between the gas station and the SARC. I assume the change from the towns to back is a result of the market and perhaps price point. A question I have on the westerly south private road, on the westerly side is kind of a hammerhead type of configuration there, and that road does not connect to the northern east-west private road. So those homes on kind of the southwest will have to do the entire either go through Wellington or do that entire loop to get out into the proposed SARC driveway. Was there any consideration to add that to connect to that northern east-west private road? To you, Mr. Mayor? I'm not sure if I'm describing it properly.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think Council Gallo, I think you're referring to that little leg, north-south leg that's parallel to the SARC axis. Yeah. So I think that really, as designed by the applicant, it really serves as a you may not be able to pick up on it, but there are parking spaces at the end of the hammerhead.
Okay.
Right. And it's designed that way for turnaround for larger vehicles, whether it's snow plows or garbage trucks. That's something we're looking at, and we had a discussion with our traffic analyst today. That may be one change that we're requesting, that just be continued as a loop and that northern sort of hammerhead be eliminated. So that may be a change that we'll see coming forward, because our traffic analyst has raised that as it would just improve on-site sort of maneuverability and vehicle access. So that's one comment that we're still reviewing.
Okay.
Counselor?
In terms of the access to the shark, I tried to understand maybe the rationale behind it, and some of maybe the pros and cons to it. I did a little bit of a cursory try to understand if there's anything similar in the town. And the only thing, maybe there's others, the only thing I could think of is the Mosaics Avenue subdivision just behind the old Canadian Tire off of Murray, where they access a commercial entrance into that plaza, and then off of that into that subdivision. So obviously the entrance to that is a commercial entrance versus a public entrance to the SARC. But there is a similar idea within town. Also, in terms of residents in that eventual subdivision, if I'm there and I want to go to the 404, clearly right out off of Wellington, they're gonna probably go out and go west. And most likely, if it was me, I would turn into the SARC and do a U-turn and then go back onto Wellington and make a left and go to the 404. So the chances of, if we don't allow that entrance, and I'm not saying I'm for or against, I'm trying to understand the pros and cons of it. The chances of people living in that community, most likely, if they want to get to the 404, they're going to either use the SARC or the fire hall, or go even further and do some type of a U-turn on Wellington if there's no median. So chances are they'd probably be using that anyway. I'd be hopeful that if we move in the direction of allowing that a collaboration, as we've already seen between the two developments to the north and to the south, that is signalized, and I don't know, through you, Mr. Mayor, or any staff know whether or not the region has that intersection on the docket to be signalized. Does anyone know?
Sure, Mano?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the region hasn't identified that signalization yet, and based on the last information we've received from them, they're of the opinion that the warrants aren't there yet for that to be signalized. However, moving forward, in the midterm future, our opinion is that it will have to be signalized, but the region would not construct or pay for a signalization at this point, even with this application and the application to the south being submitted, and the region has both of those. So if council's wish was to signalize those now, it'd be a question of either the town funding partially the signalization, or getting the two developers to pay for the signalization, if we want to have that in anytime soon.
that's where I was gonna, the direction I was gonna go in if either of the developments find a benefit to that type of access, and knowing that the region is not gonna probably do it for some time, just to throw it out there to collaborate and have that shared cost. I don't have an issue moving that forward, but I would, if it comes back to committee of the whole, that we definitely deal with the pros and cons of that, and I'm sure staff would do that in terms of ownership, in terms of easements, maintenance responsibilities, any liability, any of those types of things that I would want to see in a report before making a final decision. But at a very high level, again, I'd like to see that comparison and what the negatives are towards that. But on a practical perspective, and sometimes we have to remove ourselves from, you know, is this benefiting a particular developer versus anything else? Are we doing it for them? You know, we want residents there, and eventually developer is going to be long gone. And we want those residents to, you know, live in those homes and have a meaningful existence there where they can travel east and west of the 4-4 at their leisure.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Conceptually, I have no problem with this development, this plan. I'd be in support to move it to the committee of the whole. Regarding the density, I mean, on a regional road where encourages high density, including 5, 6, 7 stories, I have no problems with the density of this development. I'm encouraged, you know, given this marketplace, to have the back-to-back townhomes, you know, starting at $699. That certainly that's encouraging, given how often we've talked about trying to make homes more affordable. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno, can you confirm with regards to cash in lieu, are we getting any cash in lieu for this development?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. So there would be, as a condition of the site plan application, there'll be cash in lieu for parkland dedication.
Yeah.
Councillor?
Thank you. And my final question is the access road that seems to be leading to the SARC, regardless of whether that opening is made available to access the SARC, can you confirm that that is necessary, because that's going to be the second or the emergency entrance exit point? So there has to be some kind of a ramp or access road out of that little division?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, we're still trying to confirm that. Again, that's the applicant's preference. If staff can't recommend that access point, you know, we'll certainly confirm that the number of units can rely on the existing right in, right out on Wellington. If there is need for a second emergency access, then the only option would be an emergency access, essentially where they're showing the access through the SARC. But if it is an emergency access, it would be only, it wouldn't be open to the residents or for the for public. It'd really just be for EMS vehicles in case there's an issue.
Councillor?
Thank you. And I think it was late last fall that construction started, or last summer construction started on the Livewell East. And the reason for the stoppage of further development is to wait on this development. So I'm assuming that the sunset clause is really not necessary here, because, you know, they're waiting for the okay from council to, you know, move on this phase 2 or the western portion. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe to Mr. Marco Ramuno, Mr. Livsidge asked when shovel to the ground will happen on Livewell West. Can you confirm approximately when that will happen, should this application be approved?
I think Ariane answered that, but Mr. Ramuno, go ahead.
Certainly, through Mr. Mayor. Yeah, my understanding is obviously the applicant with phase 1, they're ready to go. It's serviced. They've actually submitted some building permits, but I think they're also anxious to move forward on servicing of phase two, but they'll have to work that out amongst themselves because, as we've heard from Eric, they do have a agreement in place between the two parties. So, but again, ideally, servicing could completed on phase two as one comprehensive development, but the applicant is in a position to proceed with home construction on phase one.
Counselor?
Okay, so thank you. So I understand, Mr. Rumino. So if, Arian and LSG team, if you guys can contact Mr. Liversidge and, make it clear to him in terms of the expected dates, that would be appreciated. Thanks very much.
Counselor Thompson?
Similar to some of the comments around the table, I mean, I have no issue with seeing this proceed to general committee. However, I do have a couple concerns, and through you to Mr. Ramuno, just so I understand with regards to the stacked, the back-to-back townhomes. The northern units only have one parking space, which is not a driveway, it's a garage. Is that correct?
Mr. Romano?
Through Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
And so we have, in the first phase, we have 8 northern back-to-back units. In the second phase, another 8, that's 16 units with only one space, a garage. It doesn't take much for any of us to drive around town and find other areas in town that have these kind of townhome configurations where parking is an issue. I certainly hear it in my ward. I'm sure some of you hear it in your ward as well. And so that concept concerns me because in general, they only have 15 visitor spaces. So you got 16 back-to-back townhomes that only have one space in the garage. We already hear enough about people saying that they're using the garage for other things than parking their cars. And so, the practicality of it all makes me think that some of these homeowners are going to use up those visitor parking spaces as a permanent, and which means that where they're going to park, they're going to park in the SARC. And if the road is open to the SARC, it definitely will encourage them to park in the SARC. In fact, it actually might be closer for them to park in the SARC than to park in any of those visitor spots. So I'm concerned with only one parking space available for the back-to-back townhomes in the north, because I think it's going to lead to a problem. I look at the road, I don't know for sure, but I look at all the driveways, I look at the configuration. I doubt there's any on the street parking either. So again, where is everybody parking? It's going to be in the SARC. We already have concerns about some other developments about parking in the SARC. And so now all of a sudden we could be running into a future issue whereby, residents at large wanting to use that facility have limited parking spaces because of the developments that are happening and going there. So I guess from a parking perspective, I still have that concerns, and I'm sure Mr. Ramuno and his team will, work with the applicant to address some of these concerns when it comes back to us at committee of the whole. But I'm not totally sold on access into the SARC. I mean, I understand the benefit to the developer to have that access, but I don't understand the benefit to the community. I get the practicality that people will most likely just do a U-turn anyways, but I think there needs to be a bigger conversation about we grant access to the SARC. It could, not compromise, but it could, add to some of the challenges within the parking there. And so there needs to be a benefit to the community at large. We're granting access, so I don't think it's unreasonable to have those conversations, and perhaps that could be part of whatever information comes back to us at committee of the whole. But other than those two things, those are my only things that I'd like to see more information when it comes back to us at whatever that time is. That's it.
Councilor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So staying on use of the SARC for parking, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Bruno, what is the width of the streets in here, and is there room to park on the street?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it'll be a private condominium road, and it's a minimum of 6 meters tacked. That's a fire route. So there'd be no on-street parking permitted on that private road.
Thank you. So I echo Councillor Thompson's comments on that and others that were made. With respect to the right in, right out, that's going to be problematic because it's so close to the 404. And a lot of people are going to want, I assume, maybe incorrectly, to use the 404. With respect to density, to me, this is too dense. Density is encouraged on regional roads, but it's encouraged for people to use public transit. That's the main point of the density is near public transit. So it's not a given that this has to be so dense, but if it stays the way it is, we were talking about green space for a playground. That green space, I'm going to assume it's a rectangle. It's going to be like 20 feet wide by 60 feet long. My apartment is bigger than that. It's really not a lot of green space. And I think the developer, the owner said that he would look at increasing the area for parks. So I'd like to know where that's proposed, because bordering the park, which can be an issue in itself, it's the visitor parking. So, Mr. Rumino, are you able to answer where there would be more room for a larger green space playground?
Mr. Romano.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So right now, the plan is showing that amenity space located centrally. So that's the way it's been designed. And then at the south and north end, you've got visitor parking. The only thing I will add is some of the standard townhome units, especially the ones along the northern edge, they're all standard towns and they've all got rear yards. And some of the other units have got, smaller front yards, but the northern blocks have got sort of traditional rear yards.
Counselor.
Yes, but I'm talking about, and Councillor Gillen was talking about playgrounds. So it's a lot of, as one of the delegates mentioned, it's a lot of townhomes, and I think could easily attract families with children, especially being so near to the Sark, which is a plus. I would love to live that near to the Sark. With respect to using the Sark Road, Councillor Gallo mentioned, I believe, is going to be extra upkeep for the town if more people are using it. And also, what about the liability issue? Liability? I mean, that's important. I think that there definitely has to be a signalized intersection there. If they're going to use the Sark, if we allow them to use the Sark, it's going to be chaos if there isn't a signalized intersection. I think perhaps most of the people sitting at this table think that as well. So yes, the developers would have to pay for it. So that needs to be a conversation. Saying that the region will do it in the midterm, I don't know what midterm is, but thank you, Mr. Muno. Is there room to have trees fronting on Wellington? It doesn't say how big the area is from the, well, I guess it would be our area.
Mr. Romano.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know, Felix, do you have a proposed landscape plan? I don't recall seeing it, but there may be opportunities for tree planting along that Wellington frontage, but we'll make a note of that. And if Felix has a plan, you can jump in, but we'll make a note of that.
Well, the question is it wide enough? Because we need at least 3 good feet for a tree to prosper. Where I live, they planted trees and they're all dead because it just wasn't planned well. And then I don't know. It's just it's real to me. It's too much ground coverage, dense, and we do need more green space. And also to Councillor Thompson's comment, there's definitely people are going to use SART parking. Definitely people are going to use SART parking. And sometimes when we have tournaments, there's barely enough room for the public. So I don't think we can give up that parking. I don't
You
think the
pass it 5?
residents, yeah. If I hit 5?
Yep.
Okay.
Councillor Weiss, second time.
Yes, thanks. I too believe this is getting very, very tight, and all of the conversations we've had around this is all about higher density, tightness, traffic flow, et cetera, as well as parking. So I'm going to ask one question that wasn't asked before, and that is, I don't see in our climate right now, we have any snow management areas in there. Do we have somewhere? Because as soon as you start having large snowfalls, it's going to be put in some place, and usually it's put in parking spots, and we lose parking that way as well. So do we, through you, Mayor, to maybe the developer, or through to you, to Mr. Ramuno, do we have any dedicated space on this property for snow management?
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Currently on the plan, it is shown on the east side, very east side where the road bends. However, whether that's sufficient or not is still being reviewed.
Councillor.
Okay, thank you. Could you refresh my mind about the signalization and what the distance the SARC's entrance for a signal would be from Leslie and Wellington? Through you, Mayor.
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it is, I believe, just slightly over 200 meters. So it meets the distance requirements from a regional perspective. So that's a non-issue. However, as I mentioned before, the region doesn't have it. They don't believe that this development or the development of South currently would warrant signalizing that intersection, but it would meet the distance requirements from Leslie and from the signalized intersection to the west. So it's really just a question of timing and who's going to pay for it.
Councillor.
Great, so it meets that warrant, but it may have other reasons for it. And we're talking about affordability again, and I appreciate the affordability comments about trying to create greater density and the economics of this from affordability. But when what happens is that we start losing green space, we start losing parking, and we start losing a variety of other things, then, you know, I understand if you take the back-to-backs out and we provide more space and more parking, then that means an increase in the price. So I really think it's very tight, and I'd like all of the developer to think about all the things that we've talked about here and to see whether that density can be reduced, the unit count come down, provide some additional space, and I even think about the street access, not through the SARC, because that seems to be our point here today, is that we're concerned about what's happening at the SARC, so, and with the access to it. And I agree with others who have said that if you're at that west end, you're going to be using the SARC parking, and there's various times there. It does bring up a point about the right in, right out. I mean, we're asking for a right in, right out, and how far away from that is the SARC right in and right out? Through you, do we have that number? Because the SARC is a right in, right out. No, sorry, right in, right and left is a full. So the point is here is if we're allowing it at the SARC and we're not allowing it 50 meters away, it's a safety issue. And for me, I'm worried about the safety issue at the SARC now. Was that a regional decision to make sure that it was allowed to go both left and right out of the SARC? But in this one, 50 meters away, they require a right in, right out? Through you, Mayor?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, the SARC access is a full turn access. And, again, as I mentioned, it'll one day be signalized. So as, council, you may be aware that any new sort of access onto a regional road, region-wide, region is restricting those turning movements, access points to right in, right out in most cases. So this is probably, the fifth or sixth that we've dealt with over the last couple of years, and it's region-wide. So yeah, the region approved the phase one right in, right out. They were happy with the location vis-a-vis Leslie Street and the SARC access, so there's no conflict there. But the region will only approve a right in, right out on Wellington Street.
Okay,
Council?
that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Gallo, second time.
Thank you. Just in terms of parking, and if this moves forward to the committee of the whole, and any research is done in terms of the SARC, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno, could we, if we have the data, provide it? If we don't, is there any way of getting it? The actual usage of the parking lot at the SARC. And maybe I'm going at the wrong times, but the easterly part of the SARC is virtually empty anytime that I'm there. And again, maybe I don't understand it, but I prefer to rely on data versus my visits to the SARC. And the reason I also say that is, and again, I'm taking a perspective of what are we doing in the rest of the town, and these are eventually our residents. And I'm thinking out loud, what's the real problem if these residents use the SARC parking? Do we not have, right across the street here, there's parking around Queen's Diamond Jubilee Park, guilty as charged. I live there. I park in those spots all the time. We just built a parking lot at Town Square. Are you trying to tell me that any of the homes around there won't use that parking lot? If they have visitors or anything else, I suggest that they would, and they do. We have streets all over this town that are public, and people use those streets if they don't have enough parking in their lot. So I want to be consistent, and I'm not convinced just yet that these residents, our residents, is going to be an issue for them to use the SARC parking lot if they need it on a casual basis. I just want to understand that. Again, if there's a problem there that we're overflowing and it's going to create a serious problem with the parking lot, that's a different issue. And we need to address that and weigh that in our decision-making process. In terms of the intersection, I believe that needs to be four-way lights there as soon as we can, regardless of if they have access to that. Anyway, the development to the south is going to happen most likely, and that intersection is going to be very busy and probably be very dangerous, regardless of if we allow access to this or not. So if we can get some data on the status of the parking at the SARC to help us make that decision, Mr. Ramuno, that would be great.
Councilor Gardner, second time.
Thank you. I think the difference about parking that's been mentioned, our public parking lots that have been mentioned, there is opportunity to park on the surrounding streets. In this case, people can't park on Wellington. That would be a hazard. And there's no streets around here, and the streets within the subdivision are too narrow. I can see that maybe creating a hazard on Wellington. With respect to the SART parking, if I was an owner of one of these homes, I would be parking as close as possible at the SARC parking lot. So I really don't think that they're going to go to the far east area of the SARC lot, which is true. It's often quite empty, but not when there's a lot of activity at the SARC. In any case, I'd like to have that question answered about the liability, if there is any liability issue, and also Councillor Gallo's issue about, the additional upkeep of the road. With respect to snow storage, that's usually my question. Thank you, Councillor Reese. Forgot all about it. I think to our planner, the east part of this subdivision is, it says landscaped area. So is that where it was suggested that the snow storage would be kept? Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Romano?
Through,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, so in the previously approved site plan, on the east side of development, that was snow storage area. It is labeled as landscape area here on this plan. However, as you know, snow storage area will be required and will be reviewed as part of the site plan application.
Thank you. And you did say that it was going to be reviewed, and the size of this doesn't look very big, especially if we have any huge snowstorms like we've had. Affordability was mentioned, I think starting around $700,000. Do we have an upper limit for that? Not sure who to ask. It's 690,000 or something was
I think,
mentioned.
Counselor, I think the 699 was for the back-to-backs. The other ones would obviously be probably starting at a higher range, single towns, but the back-to-backs would be 699.
And we can be assured of that?
I'm seeing a nod of yes, but
I'm
yeah.
seeing a smile. Yeah, because part of this whole exercise is affordability. I'm thinking Councillor Gillen is going to be asking about the park area, but where are we going to put that? So I'll close. Thank you.
Counselor Gillen, second time.
Thank you. We've covered a lot of ground. To you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno, if we could just be reminded within the local corridor what our official plan currently allows.
Mr. Romano?
Through Mr. Mayor, so yeah, the local corridor is up to 4-story heights. But specifically this Wellington Street corridor under the previous secondary plan, in certain locations, in quite a few locations along Wellington, up to 7 stories was permitted. Designation is medium high residential development. So between that Bayview and Leslie Street stretch.
Counselor?
Thank you. And I really just want to remind the public that that is something that we did approve within our official plan. We have been talking around this council table on numerous times about the need for housing in Aurora and identifying where it is appropriate to have this type of density. And in fact, I'm going to repeat that I feel this is an area where we could have even more density, just given the fact that these are the identified areas that we decided as a municipality that was appropriate. And we have a developer who's decided to come in on a much lower density and height and has provided some what we would be considered attainable housing, which we haven't really had that type of housing, I would believe, yet. And so I actually am very happy about it. As far as the parking, again, I agree with Councillor Gallo. There's been lots of examples in town where we have municipal parking lots where members of the community have utilized. I don't see the SART being that much of an issue. Through Mr. Ramuno, through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Ramuno, as far as like the parking requirements, are the parking requirements met as a whole within this application? And the visitor parking?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so 163 spaces in total, 15 of those are visitors. They are slightly less. There's a shortage in visitor spaces because the parking the way our parking standard works is 20% of the parking spaces provided have to be designated as visitors. So I think they're 4 or 5 short on visitors. However, in the total numbers, because they average 2 spaces per unit, they are providing more than our minimum 1.5 space per townhome unit. But they will require an exception based on this plan for a slight reduction in visitor spaces only.
Counselor.
Thank you. And I think it's important to realize that there has been a portion of the community that's exceeded the actual minimum parking, so that can alleviate some of that. And given the fact that it is a condo type community, it's not unusual within these communities. There are no parking on the street and they rely on that visitor parking. In fact, there is a bit of an advantage that, of course, we have the Cirque around the corner, but I don't really foresee that being something that will be abused. Is it something that we should be concerned about and speak about today? Absolutely. Do we want to make sure the developer realizes that we want to ensure that the minimums are being presented today and that's not something that you're going to be building the foundation of your application on? Absolutely. Is it a reason for me to say that I feel this application wouldn't be something good to move forward to the next committee of the whole? I'm not going to hold them to that. I do appreciate the comments around the table on this, but certainly would not want to hang my hat based on some of those comments. Again, I really do appreciate the lively conversation we've had about this. I think my biggest bone of contention right now is ensuring that we have some good amenity space and green space for the families that are there, because it is something that is very near and dear. We want to make sure that families have a place for the kids to play and to walk their dogs. And that is really the biggest bone of contention for me. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? None, seeing none. Mr. Rumino, I just have one question. Has fire services made any comments in regards to the access points on this yet?
Yes, to you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we've got plenty of comments from fire, and they're stating they're okay with the proposal based on the two access points. So we'll continue our review and we'll report back to council. If there's a change with only the one access, we'll have to let fire weigh in and ensure that it'll still work.
Okay, I'm just going by past things. I'm sure it'd be interesting to hear fire's thoughts on if there was only one access point being provided, because I know that they've turned that down many times and said that you need at least an emergency access point. So I think at minimum, that's what we would be looking at in this instance. But I think there are some, obviously some issues. I mean, as far as the traffic light, absolutely, we need one in this area at some point. But I don't think that the town should be paying for it. I think that both developments, there's one that's going to be on the south side, and this one can fully fund the installation and implementation of that signalized intersection. And then as far as density, I just remind everyone, just to the north of it, off of Leslie, is the Apollo Towers. We approved 3 7-story buildings there, which each one consists of 150 units. You could easily fit to Councillor Gillen's point, you could easily fit 2 7-story buildings on this and have 300 units. So we should be careful what we wish for. We're getting some affordability, we're getting some lower density than what could be possibly put in this location. And also, you know, this is an area that we are going to see intensification around that intersection of Leslie and Wellington. The one with the Polo Club, as I mentioned, also has 150 units. That's going to be with Housing York, which is going to be below market value as well. So that's something that's also we're looking at and working on, which is really good for the area. But those are some of the concerns I think we've heard from everyone, and hopefully the applicant works with staff and comes back to committee of the whole with a plan that we can approve. I will call the vote. Councillor Weiss? Councillor Weiss, yes. Councillor Gallo? Councillor Gallo, yes. That carries. Confirm in bylaw. Councillor Thompson? Councillor Gilliland? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. And a motion to adjourn. Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Gallo, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. And members of the public, if you did want